How are we doing, Kansas Jayhawks fans? This is your host, Nick Rondeau, bringing at you some Jayhawks Daily content. And we've got a lot to cover today because Bill Self loved talking about this team coming up, this preseason kind of look, kind of the exhibitions we're looking at. But, also we got a little bit of a recruiting update slightly. And, yes, the preseason awards came out, the coaches' polls came out. So we're going to talk about it all. And first off, kind of where we're continuing. I started that player profile kind of series. I'll continue to do that. And I kind of like going in the order of the way these guys joined this program. So, Gian Gala, that's his nickname. He joined latest. Paul Mbaya joined just before in about July. So, talking about Paul Mbaya, going to be wearing that number 34 this season for the Jayhawks. And we've talked a little bit about it in the past, but I am so excited for Paul to play in the Jayhawks uniform. I mean, this is exactly what Kansas has needed. Sorry, Hunter Dickinson. It is time for the athletic big to come back into play, that we don't need to rely on entirely offensively, that we can not get defensively dominated with, and Paul Mbaya is exactly who he needs. So a 7-foot freshman out of the Democratic Republic of Congo. He's got a 7'8" wingspan. Try scoring on that. You won't. I've seen videos. And it's just unbelievable. He picked up basketball a little bit later, 2022 Basketball Without Borders All-Star. He did NBA Academy Africa. But he did recently, this past year, play in the French Pro League, under 21s. He played a little bit with the pros, but then he decided, I'm gonna go play some NCAA basketball, going to develop there. And he originally was going to NC State with Will Wade and his program, and I think things just got too packed for him. He said, too many bodies for me. I don't want to play with Venel and Lubin. I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to go to Bill Self's Kansas Jayhawks, and boy, are we pumped that this happened. This guy is exactly what we needed. I mean, Bill Self said it best, clearly, like just looking at his film, I can get a little bit. What Bill Self's saying, it matches perfectly. He says this guy tries ridiculously hard to be good and master every little thing that you tell him. Can you work on your lower box out? Okay, yeah, 24 out of 24, nails it. And he just, the one thing he said strikes home with him 100% with Mbaya is he is a great offensive rebounder. And that's something that we desperately need, getting an extra possession here and there, give Darren Peterson another shot. I think the biggest thing also with Mbaya early on is going to be giving Flory a little bit time off the court, keeping him out of foul trouble and kind of making it seem like a seamless transition when Paul comes onto the court. And he's just a very talented player. I looked at a lot of his French Pro League, a couple of his games, and career high for him in the French Pro A U21s. 29 points and 17 rebounds. That was in the same game, actually. Apparently he had a big day. But he also, his highest career high, 7 offensive rebounds in a game. 7. That happened 4 times in 20-plus games that he played. So he gets there. He looked like he was averaging about 3.5 offensive boards a game. That's pretty clutch, And he's not playing with just a bunch of scrubs over there. He's played a couple games with former KU legend Tariq Black, Andre Roberson, former Thunder player. Played against Juancho Hernan-Gomez. Shout out the movie Hustle. But yeah, no, he's going to be amazing, I think, in the pick and roll. I think that's where he's really going to dominate. He's not going to, get kind of bullied around. And, the best part about it is he does not have to play crazy amount of drop coverage. He can help hedge, and he will go find his defender immediately with like seamless. It will seem as if he never left his defender. He's that quick. For a 7-footer, I've never seen feet that quick. It's pretty honestly impressive. But kind of what do I expect? My real expectations for Paul. And you can't overpromise with this guy. Yes, he is already 20 years old, but realistically, he's not going to be starting a lot of games. I got him starting maybe 6 to 10 games this year. I think obviously that all shakes out with injuries. I do think he will be the top choice for the backup center beyond Bryson Tiller. I think Tiller will probably be sliding in that 4 more, maybe when Trey White needs to come out. But I do see Paul taking the non-Flory minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised in some big games. Looking ahead at our schedule, there's some relatively tall opponents, and this one may be too early, but that UNC game, Caleb Wilson is 6'10", and Henry Visar is a 7-footer. So Flory and Trey White there being 6'9", 6'10", and then 6'7", they might be a little bit overmatched. I do think it would be a little bit too early to start Paul for that game 2 of the season. Just, especially we do lose a big end with no Trey White there. Maybe Trey slides down to the 3, El Marco goes to the bench. But I just think we don't want to get bullied too much on the boards. You don't want to get dominated in the paint. And Paul Mbaye is going to have to do that. We've got some big size games. Texas Tech, JT Toppin's playing that 4. They have a big lineup. But you got the smaller lineups. I don't see him, really playing in BYU, a little bit of a smaller lineup. DeBonce's probably playing at the 4. Iowa State's a little bit bigger. We're playing them twice this year. Joshua Jefferson, that guy's so physical at the 4. So I could see him playing for some maybe bigger moments, some bigger teams, but I don't see him going over 10 starts this season as pending injury. But I see him as a good 5-6 point guy, 7-8 rebounds maybe. That's a really I'm hoping a couple of those are in the offensive glass and easily 1.5 blocks. I don't care how many minutes, but my guess would be about 20 minutes a game. Up to 20 minutes a game. He'll work that way. Flory's going to need some time off the floor. He's going to play sometime with Flory, but Paul Mbaye is exactly what we needed for, he's a rim runner. He is an elite defensive switcher. He does not get dominated by, he'll not get dominated by a guard. I've seen many clips I've seen from this guy take a guard for a full 15 to 20 seconds of a possession and make it a turnover, whether it's a shot clock, whether it's a block, whether it's just a bad pass. Paul Mbaye is an excellent defender, so I'm very excited that the Jayhawks got their backup center and kind of got their future center. I do think this guy will be a couple of years. He just reminds me of, Sheck Diallo. And Diallo was a very high recruit. We'll actually talk about him in this episode, but, he's just the perfect guy. He's got great wingspan. He's got great, intangible stuff that you can't teach. And next up is going to be teaching a little bit of a jump shot, teaching, a little bit of success on the offensive end. And I have no qualms with the fact that I know Bill Self will be doing that at a very high level because he's been doing that. Look at Joel Embiid when he came here. Yes, he was excellent, but he wasn't as great as he is now. You learn a lot of that offensive game from Bill's system. So him, Darren Peterson, they will work flawlessly in a pick and roll. And look at him getting some, offensive rebounds, kicks, offensive rebounds, scoop pass underneath to Flory. I mean, I see a lot of potential there. So I'm excited for Paul Mbaye. I'm excited for this team. But who's not really excited? Apparently the coaches that are going to play us, because even they have put us at 6th in the league, and that's disappointing. I understand. I get it. Everyone's putting us at, marking us at 6th. There are a lot of returning players from other schools. There's a lot of question marks. Our transfers have gotten almost no love. The only one making an ESPN top 100 list was Trey White coming in at 77 for transfer impact. I dislike that, but we're 6th behind Houston, BYU, Texas Tech, Arizona, and Iowa State in that order. And honestly, we are right behind Iowa State, and then we're way ahead of Baylor. I think people are thinking this is going to be a top 6 heavy league. Baylor did lose a big player in Rob Wright, a couple players, VJ Edgecombe, so they might not be as successful early on. Scott Trudeau, never going to count him out. But I do see a gap in this league, a slight gap. Cincinnati below them. Good team, but we should handle business when we play them. But what else came out besides this coaches poll? And yes, if people don't know the coaches poll, you vote for other teams for the rankings. Can't vote for your own team, and everyone voted for Houston #1 except for BYU and I believe Texas Tech. Each got 1 vote, so good for them. But another thing that happens is the preseason poll of the awards, and Darren Peterson racked up 2. Does it matter? No. But is it interesting? Yes. So Darren Peterson going to be the 10th Jayhawk to earn the preseason distinction of preseason newcomer, and that would be Quentin Grimes back in 2018, Josh Jackson 2016, Sheck Diallo 2015, Cliff Alexander 2014, Andrew Wiggins, Josh Selby, Julian Wright, David Padgett, Nick Collison. That's a good list. That's a good list of pretty solid Kansas Jayhawk players, and I can only expect he maybe exceed a couple of those guys, But also he got a unanimous preseason All Big 12 selection along with his team. Some guys you expect: AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, Emmanuel Sharp, Joseph Tugler, Milos Zuzan, the trio from Houston. That's gonna what everyone's saying is gonna dominate this league as they brought their team to the championship last year. I think people are undervaluing the impact that Juwan Roberts had on that team, but that's just me. And then you got Taman Lipsey for Iowa State, unbelievable scorer. You got our boy DP. PJ Haggerty, the Memphis transfer to K-State. He's going to eat up all of their points, probably score 25. He's the only guy I really think will be competing for points per game in the Big 12 with our guy Darren Peterson, just because he's going to be getting so many shots in Jerome Tang's system. And then Christian Anderson from Texas Tech, who returned, and then JT Toppin from Texas Tech. So going to be a lot of talent out there, obviously. We knew that. That's the Big 12. This is a big conference. We know how, deep it can be, but there's a lot of competition out there, and apparently the coaches only have us at 6. Bill obviously can't vote for us at 1, but we'll prove the doubters wrong. That's fine, And the thing is it's a lot of good competition. Of those teams ahead of us, we only play 2 of those teams twice. We're playing Arizona and we're playing Iowa State twice. The other teams, we only get 1 knock at them. And Houston, I don't mind only getting 1 knock. That's kind of okay with me. But Texas Tech at Lubbock, that's going to be such a difficult game. BYU at home, we've got a score to prove, and that's erasing last year's score and saying Darren Peterson is better than DeBonsa. I'm sorry. But I think BYU is going to be such a hard game, honestly, and I'll break down all of them this year. But that BYU team with their starting lineup, getting Rob Wright from Baylor, and then retaining Richie Saunders, plus AJ DeBonsa, it's going to be a really tough team. And they're just a tough team, but I like it. I like what we've got this year. We're going to have a hard-fought contest, and we're going to live and die by Darren Peterson scoring that basketball at a high level. And we're going to see if those transfers really are just as poorly rated as everyone thinks, which we all know is not the case. So I'm excited to see what this team's got in order. But you know what this team doesn't have? They don't have a 7-footer for next year in this recruiting class. Davion Adkins is just a little bit shorter. He's a slightly, undersized southpaw, but you know who is a 7-footer? That's Ethan Taylor, and we've talked about him before. But man, this guy he's a perfect fit, and I say this about almost everybody, but this is a great guy that Bill Self can work. He can really help him, in his staff. He's the number 22 player. He's the people are saying number 1 center. I think he's about 2 or 3, but again, everyone's rankings are different. He played at Shawnee, Kansas, and Branson, Missouri, actually, for Link, and that's got some close family ties. Maybe his family wants to see him play. But we're in the mix, 100%. But he did have that Michigan State official visit after us, beginning of October. So apparently that went really well, and since then, KU's got a couple of commits already, including a center in Davion Adkins. So does he really, see his time? And the thing is this is completely pending that extra scholarship spot if Flory goes to the NBA. And if Flory goes to the NBA, that doesn't only mean we have another scholarship spot. It means we're dropping another center. And Davion Adkins and Paul Mbaya for next year with the help of Bryson Tiller, that's fine. Ethan Taylor into the mix, that's great. That is depth. That is something that KU has lacked in many years, is center depth. And kind of speaking about my guy Mitch Lightfoot the other day, center depth was something that he struggled in his time, so he would step up, and he was excellent at the center, but he was 6'8". He was a very undersized center, but he was so bouncy and incredible at blocking that it didn't impact it too much. I mean, do we not remember a couple years ago KJ Adams starting at the 5? 6'7", starting at the 5. We just didn't have a lot of depth at the center position. And when I think of a Bill Self team, I think of a dominant center. David McCormick from that tournament run. I always mention my guy Landon Lucas, but those are Jeff Withy. These guys, you need a big center that can take up the paint, that can block, that can rim run, but is also a little bit talented offensively. Doesn't need to be completely, offensively talented like Hunter Dickinson and get dominated on the defensive end. But hey, we've got Ethan Taylor for that. Sorry, Hunter Dickinson, you get too many stray shots, but it's just seeing how many times you had to drop down in coverage and get us absolutely shredded from the three-point line in a pick and roll. It was disappointing. But what we do have is people to counteract that now. I love Flory. I love Paul. I think Bryson could learn it pretty quickly. And Ethan Taylor, he's going to be a person at the beginning. He's going to have to play drop coverage. He's not that quick. He's got to pick up a little bit of speed. He's got a good offensive first step. This guy's body control around the rim is kind of crazy. I've seen a couple of plays where he literally has it from one side, takes one dribble up and under, little English on it. It's just he's a very, very pretty scorer. He's got, unique skill set, I would say, but he's got to put on a little bit more weight. His frame is a little bit too skinny, I would say, but he's just super athletic, and pairing him with Davion Adkins for next year, I like that, twin tower kind of matchup. That I think that's something that teams would really have to, schematically deal with. That would be very difficult, but you'd have to have the shooters with that. Which Taylor Kinney, thank you. Trent Perry will be coming off the bench. We'll hope Cole Rosario stays for another year. Captain America, Steve Rogers over there. Cole Rosario, that is. Apparently, El Marco calls him that. We'll talk about it next week, but. I'm excited. Yes, there is a lot of competition for Ethan Taylor. He's got Oklahoma. He visited Indiana as well. But he's done a couple of officials, June and August for KU. He's done a couple unofficials. So he's very, very interested. It's just, will we be able to get him? Will he buy into the fact that he will have a role in our team? That's harder to kind of sell, but I still think there's a possibility. Never going to rule it out. Ethan Taylor is a great player. You never turn away great players just because of potential, issues. And to that point, Javon Bardwell has not reclassified yet. It will take some time before he officially reclassifies. People are also thinking, maybe once Stokes makes his decision, then Bardwell will reclassify immediately. I'm going to report this as he has not reclassified yet. We have at least one open spot. I think realistically too, and we're gonna keep looking at this. We're gonna keep looking at prospects because there are plenty of guys out there that KU can get that I know us fans would love to see on the court next year. So I'll be bringing all this content. I'm keeping the ear out there. Everything we got, any update, everything to keep you guys updated. But I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please comment anything. I'd love to know any segments you might want me to do, any questions you might want me to answer. And I love to do anything for you guys. This content is all for you, so I very much appreciate it. Just want to thank you one more time again. And rock chalk. Go Jayhawks.